Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about the 5 books that I read in the month of November. November was a very roller coaster reading month for me. There was some really high highs and then there was some just kind of like, what even am I doing? Low lows. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump into what I read this month. We're going to go ahead and get started with Dead 11 by Giuliano. This was on my TBR for just a little bit. I purchased it initially to read in October, but to be fair, I purchased like 15 books to read in October, fully knowing I wasn't going to be able to read them all. So this was just sitting on my TBR, and I asked my husband, I was like, hey, can you just go pick a book? Whatever you pick, I'm going to read. I don't care what it is. It doesn't matter as long as it's not like a 10th book in a series that I haven't gotten to yet, you know? And he picked this one because he said he liked the side. It reminded him of a VHS tape, which it is a VHS tape, and it's Dead 11, Giuliano. I gave this 4.5 stars. This was such a great book. So it's kind of difficult to explain, but the way it's told is in sort of mixed media, which I feel like because this is like a 400+ page horror novel can be a lot, and I think being told in mixed media was really helpful because you're able to sort of kind of fly through the book a little bit faster. So you're being told the story through like text messages, emails, written letters, and then, you know, there is the occasional actual just normal chapter storytelling, but you're following 2 characters, kind of. So you're following Willow initially. Willow goes to this island called Clifford Island after discovering it written under her son's toy box in his room. Her son has passed, and she was cleaning his room and she saw Clifford Island written under his toy box, and she's like, there's a reason this is here. So she goes to this island and discovers that it's a little wonky. The people here are kind of retro-esque. There's no cell phones. They're kind of stuck in the past, and they're obsessed with the year 1994. And that sort of sentence to me made me really interested in this book because I was born in 1994, so I was like, oh, that's me. But they're all kind of obsessed with that year. At night, she sees people watching the O.J. Simpson chase live, it's live every night, and they listen to old music, and it's just really strange, and she ends up going missing on this island. So then you're following her brother's story as he's trying to figure out what exactly happened to Willow. He goes to the island, sifting through letters that she has written. He's kind of following people that she kind of followed, and it's just told so well, and I really enjoyed it. I think at the end it said it was going to be turned into a movie, which I read this as a movie. As I was reading this, I could picture this being a movie. Even the ending, which the ending got absolutely just wild, I could picture as a movie. So I really enjoyed reading this. I gave it a 4.5 stars. I had such a great time reading it. I thought it was a really fun horror novel. I like the idea of people having to close their curtains at night because they're scared of something that's outside. I like that. I like that a lot, and I think the whole theory behind this was just really awesome. So I really enjoyed Dead 11 by Giuliano. I fully recommend it. I had such a good time with this one. Next up, I read In an Absent Dream by Shauna Maguire. This is the 4th book in the Wayward Children's story. The Wayward Children's story, I feel like I always explain it every month because I'm constantly reading at least one of these a month because they're so easy to get through. They're very quick novellas, and it's about these kids that find doors or windows that they climb through and discover new worlds. Every other book, you're either at the Wayward Children home or you're in one of the worlds following a specific character. In this particular story, we are following Lundy, and I was really interested in Lundy's story because when you kind of meet her in the first book, you just you care, but not really. She's just kind of a side character, but you're interested in her story because it doesn't make sense. She's an old woman, but she has basically Benjamin Button syndrome where she looks like she's 10, but she's a 40 or 50-year-old woman. You're like, why is that? So in this book, you follow her story. So Lundy as a kid is a bookworm, always has her head stuck in a novel, always reading, doesn't really have a lot of friends because her dad is the principal and no kid really wants to befriend her because they're scared they're gonna get in trouble at school for certain things. She stumbles upon a door in a tree and falls into this world that is a logical world. So when you're first introduced to the Wayward Children series, there's logic worlds, illogical worlds, made-up worlds, dream worlds. It's very interesting. So she goes to a logic world, and she goes to the Goblin Market, and for me the Goblin Market makes a lot of sense. It was a very interesting story, and I'm gonna say partway through this I found myself not really caring as much, not really feeling any sort of connection to Lundy, not really understanding any of the connections I was feeling to any of the other characters. But the end of this book was so sad. It made you feel so heartbroken for her, and you can almost look back at that first book and kind of get an idea then of why she is the way she is, and it just really hurt. So like the whole book I'm reading this, I'm like, okay, this is cool, this makes sense, I like this, but I'm not in love with this. And then you get to the end, you're like, oh, my heart is in pieces. I like this series a lot. I've said it before and I'll say it again. This series reminds me of reading fantasy, like light fantasy novels as a kid and being very nostalgic for their worlds. But reading this as an adult, it's just so like comforting in a sense, and I can't wait to continue this series. I gave this 4 stars. I really loved this. Next, I was in kind of a thriller mood and I was like, you know what? The new Housemade book is coming out next year. There's a 3rd Housemade book. So let me read my 2nd one. So this is the Housemade Secret by Frida McFadden. This is the 3rd Frida McFadden book I've read. And unfortunately, I gave this 3.5 stars. You're still following the same character as the housemaid, Millie, but this time she's basically working for this man and wife who live in like a penthouse, and the man is basically like, yeah, my wife's really sick, she doesn't leave the room, so just like don't bother her as you're cleaning. But she sees like blood splatters in the bathroom and she hears the woman crying, so clearly something is wrong. And I feel like with this book I was just more upset with myself kind of, because Frida McFadden has a certain thriller writing style and I almost feel like I've picked up on it pretty quickly. You kind of just know certain things aren't going to be the way that they seem. You already are kind of thinking ahead as to what actually is happening, and what I had thought was happening did happen in this book, and it reminded me a lot of the first book, so I was just like so I kind of fell into sort of a reading slump with this, which is really disappointing to fall into a little bit of a reading slump with a thriller, because most times when I read thrillers, I can read them in like a day or 2 because I just want to know what happens. But this one just didn't really do it for me. However, will I read the next Housemade book? Probably, but that might be it. Like if there's another one after that, I might be done, because like this is kind of just a lot, and I just didn't, I don't know, I wasn't like feeling it the way, like the first Housemade book did it for me. It was amazing. I think I even give it 5 stars. I loved it so much. And then I read Never Lie by Frida and I really enjoyed Never Lie. This was just like meh, and that sucked. So like I said, I was kind of in a reading slump already, and I'm like, oh, let's read like a romance to see if maybe I can get myself out of it. Let's read a sports romance. Let's read a soccer romance. Your girl loves soccer. Let's read a soccer romance. This is my first sports romance. This is The Long Game by Elena Armas. This is like a new release. It's a soccer romance. I thought this would be perfect. This put me in like quite possibly one of the worst reading slumps I've ever been in. I've been in reading slumps before where I just power through a book just to be done so I can start something new and hopefully get out of it. There were nights when I just was like, I had time to read and I just didn't want to. I just didn't want to read. I was like, I'll just play on my phone. And I'm never like that. So that was just, if that says anything about the reading slump this book put me in, yeah. Following Adeline. Adeline works for a MLS soccer team in Miami. It's called the Miami Flames. It was kind of interesting. As someone who does enjoy soccer, I got all of the references. They all made sense to me. So she's working kind of like in corporate, I guess, like in the office for this MLS team. Her dad is the owner of the team. She does something absolutely crazy to the team's mascot. She just like beats it up essentially, and she goes viral, and her dad's like, hey, we can't have you like working in office because like you're now like this is not a good look for our club. This isn't great. I'm gonna send you away to do some sort of charity work in North Carolina to kind of like get you away for a little bit, and then once everything dies down you can come back to Miami. She's like, whatever, I have to do this because I want to eventually be the owner of this team. She goes to this club in North Carolina and realizes it's a club of 9-year-olds, and the coach is Cameron, who is an ex-Premier League, ex-MLS goalkeeper who retired early and no one knows why. Like, it's like weird for him to have retired early. And that's it. He's broody, they're enemies to lovers, it's close quarters, it's everything I thought I would enjoy. The kids, I didn't think I would enjoy. I don't necessarily love a lot of kids in books. Like a lot of kids, like a team of kids, you know what I'm saying? Like 1 or 2 kids is fine. A team of kids is a lot. But everything went the opposite for me. I ended up absolutely loving the children in this book and like the farm animals, and Adeline and Cameron just didn't do it for me. They just didn't do it for me. I was like, this book is like over 400 pages. It was just, it felt so long. Like it literally felt like I was reading I was just reading words. Like, it was just words. Like, nothing was processing. I wasn't getting a story out of it. I just felt like I was reading the same things over and over. I ended up giving this 2.5 stars. I honestly feel like I probably could have just given it like one or 2 stars. I think I gave it 2.5 just because I liked the one little girl and her goat. That was the funniest thing to me. But otherwise, it was just like, why? And I've seen a lot of people say that, like, The Spanish Love Deception is amazing, but her other book is kind of like this in the sense where it just felt so long. And I don't know, I wanted to love this. I wanted to love this so badly, but it just like didn't do it for me, and that sucks. So then I really needed to come out of that. I needed to get out of that like slump I was in. I was annoyed. I was like, you know what, I need to read a horror book. I need to read something scary because I stand with scary. I love a good scary book. I saw this girl that I follow on Instagram. She only, I think, reads horror, and she posted this a couple of months ago, and this is the only place I'd ever seen it, and I was like, oh, that actually looks kind of interesting. So I gave it a try. What Stalks Among Us by Sarah Hollowell. This is YA horror, and what I have learned about me and YA horror is we're like this. I've read 2 YA horrors so far. I've read this, and I've read, where is it? I read this, You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight. Both of them, fantastic. Absolutely loved it, had a great time. I ended up giving this 4 stars. This was awesome. In this, you're following Sadie and Logan, and I mean, you are thrown in out the gate. The horror starts page 1. You are there. They are driving in, they live in like the middle of Indiana, and they stumble across a corn maze, and they're like, oh, let's go in it. We're kids. We're skipping our high school field trip. Let's go in this corn maze. We're from Indiana. We've been in 100 corn mazes. And within like minutes, they see his dead body, but he's standing next to her, so how can his dead body be there? And then it just becomes a trap, and they're trapped in this maze, and people are following them, and there's other people trapped. It's absolutely wild. I won't say it's necessarily scary, but it's just like a fun time. Well, like, is that a good way to describe a horror novel? It's a fun time, but it was a really fun time. You're almost solving this mystery with them, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it, you know, there was some parts that were very creepy and very weird. There's like these like corn monsters, pretty scary, but otherwise I really enjoyed this. I also felt like this took a really great look into friendship, into self-image, into like abusive, emotionally abusive relationships. I felt like, you know, you're getting kind of everything in this, and I really had a good time with this. I felt like the maze was very cool. The different rooms they would go through, incredible, weird, awesome. I really liked this. I gave it 4 stars, like I said. There's another book written by this author that I immediately added to my wish list because I kind of need to read it. If you are interested in YA horror at all, I haven't seen this really making the rounds. Check it out, What Stalks Among Us. I don't know when this was actually published. This literally was published in 2023 in September, so like this is new. Get your hands on it. It's good stuff. I really liked it. So that is everything that I read in November. Pretty great start, and then it got better. So hopefully December is a much better reading month for me. I will say I am reading Crown of Midnight right now, the 2nd book in the Throne of Glass series. Not gonna say anything. Really like it. We're just gonna move on. I'm at a part right now that I don't really love, but we'll get to it when we get to it. But yeah, it was a pretty decent reading month, and hopefully December is a lot better because what the heck. Also, if you notice, I do not have a book of the month in this month. I skipped my November book. All the books I didn't vibe with any of them, but I do have 2 coming for December, so you know. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel if you're not already, and I'll see you on my next one. Bye guys.